Hi, it's Josie Cotton. And you're listening to the New Wave Music Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the New Wave Music Podcast. I'm your host, Steve. And before we begin today's episode, I want to give a shout out to our listeners in Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for listening. We really do appreciate it. Today, we're going to be diving into another episode in our new music spotlight. Remember the days you'd stumble across a new band while shopping at your favorite record store, or discover your next favorite act at a club show, or as an opening band? That feeling of discovery is exactly what this spotlight is all about. When I came across a group that sounded like the Go-Go's meets X, I knew I had to share them with you. The band is Hayley and the Crushers. I had a chance to speak with the lead singer, Hayley, to talk about the band's story, their influences, and dive into several tracks that will give you a taste of their unique sound. Hayley, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us here on the New Wave Music Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So can you take us back to the beginning? How did Hayley and the Crushers first come together?
I was sick of being a second guitarist in a punk band. I was very jealous of our singer who was singing all the songs, some of which I wrote, some of which I didn't. And I realized, if I want to be the front person, I'm going to have to take it upon myself to start my own band, which is why I put my name on it so that I couldn't chicken out. So if you're looking for dates, I think that was around 2016, 17. My husband / bass player, Dr. Hayley Cain Esquire, and I were in a band called Magazine Dirty in San Luis Obispo, California. And I said, I'm ready to do this. And originally I wanted it to be an all-girl band, but that didn't go quite as planned. Reed picked up the bass. He'd never played bass in his life. He was always a guitar player. And he said, I'll join your band. And we were, pretty newly married. And I said, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I guess we could all, explode. It ended up working out really well. And that is kind of the ins and outs of it. I mean, the reason it's worked is we've had people from all over the country, wherever we are, we have different crushers who fill out our lineup. So that's kind of been how it's been from the beginning.
So that was one question I was going to ask is who else is in your band and what role do they play? It sounds like you kind of have a rotating door.
That's the unique thing about being married to your bandmate. You kind of know you have this unit going on. And so it makes it really stable in one regard. But in another regard, not everyone's going to be as committed or as, available at all times as you and your partner are. And you're communicating and writing songs. And at least for my husband and I, that's what we were doing. So we didn't expect people to necessarily give their soul to us. And so I think that hold on loosely mentality has been really healthy. And I like to think of it as like a feature, not a bug anymore. And it's actually very exciting that when we go to different places, we have different people we can call on, and so right now, for instance, we have a really great lineup in Detroit that we're so, so, so grateful for. And I never want them to leave, but everyone has their lives. That's Ryan DeLiso on lead guitar. We have Gabe Masek on drums. I'm your rhythm guitarist and lead singer, obviously. And we have Dr. Hayley Cain on bass. So that's kind of the current lineup.
So the band name Hayley and the Crushers is so distinctive. What's the story behind that? And how did you land on that for the identity of the band?
I mean, I think we were trying to be cheeky. Like you could have a crush on someone or you could crush them, and the duality, I don't think we went into it thinking, let's create something that has this duality of, we like to say like grit and glitter or, vulnerability and punk, or I guess punk can be vulnerable, but you know what I'm saying? Dark and light together. But I think the name perfectly kind of weirdly maybe led the way for us to be both, sweet and sugary and, romantic, but also, crush when we have to and, have those energetic songs. So it's kind of one of those mystical things. Band names, who knows how that happens? I tend to think that ideas are swimming in the air all around us and you just pick them out of the air. So that's my answer.
So one question that I wanted to ask you once I got introduced to you, your band, and I knew I was going to be interviewing you is what bands or artists had the biggest influences on your sound and approach to music?
I grew up on K Earth 101 in Southern California, legendary oldies station. I was obsessed with 60s and 50s music. I loved Elvis. I loved the Supremes. My big sister and I were always, making music videos and whatever we had lying around the house. So that would be anything from like my mom's CD of the Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat, or, we had, music of the day. This was like late mid 90s, or early 90s, I don't know. So, we had like Oasis laying around, and we had like Mariah Carey, obviously, like laying around the house. But it was always the stuff that was a little bit more retro that I was really gravitating towards. So I think that that's just baked into our sound no matter what. When I was in my teen years, and also for my husband, we both found different things in the punk scene. Myself in punk scene in Southern California, and for him in Colorado, and then in Oakland, California. And so I think we bring a lot of like our punk sensibilities, to these like childhood listening habits, I guess you could say. Like for my husband, he grew up on like, he loves Joan Jett, but he also loves Waylon Jennings. He has a really great and strong history with really being attracted to music based on storytelling and not always on specific genre. So I think as like kind of a melding of all those influences, you can kind of see where maybe some of our like, our sound comes from. But obviously we love the 80s because we do a lot of 80s covers. Kim Wilde, what else? The Go-Go's.
One thing I found refreshing was your music kind of blends that surf punk and new wave energy into a kind of a mix of its own. Was that always the vision, or did it develop naturally?
Well, it's funny because coming now to the Midwest, people are always saying some version of what you just said, which is like a huge compliment. Thank you. That like we have this sunny kind of California surfy vibe going on, and they can hear it in the music, even when my guitar isn't super. I mean, my guitar usually has some reverb on it. It's got a bit of like that literal surf sound is going on a little bit in there with the distorted bass. But I think more than anything, it's a product of we formed in San Luis Obispo, California, 10 minutes from the beach. My husband's a surfer. A lot of the music we're listening to, a lot of the music in that region is like inspired by, I wouldn't say specifically inspired by surf music, but there is like a long tradition of that kind of stuff. Dick Dale and even like surf punk bands from Orange County that are, so brutal, but have the greatest surf riffs, like, Agent Orange or something like that. Like that's just it's in the water. So I think that just kind of was part of the vibe. And I mean, I've always lived near the beach. I don't know. I just feel like it felt right. It felt like I guess I'm kind of a beach girl in a way. And now that I live in Detroit, it's more apparent than ever that I am kind of that Malibu Barbie. And I sometimes wish I was a little bit less of that because it makes me stand out a little bit. But I think it brings a lot of fun to the stage.
You're now on Josie Cotton's record label,
Yeah.
Kitten Robot Records. How'd you get signed by Josie?
I was worried you'd ask this because it's such not a simple question and I keep racking my brain, like, how exactly did it happen? But the only way I can describe how this happened, and this is such a like hippy dippy West Coast thing, is like, I kind of feel like I manifested it. I know that sounds crazy. But 2020, our album Vintage Millennial had come out, which is, it had come out on the label Eccentric Pop Records, which we adore. They're like a pop punk, smaller boutique label. And I had been thinking, I really love working with a label. That's been great. But what I would really like now is a producer, because the last album, that we did in 2020, Vintage Millennial, was produced by a great guy named Bart in a warehouse in Oakland. I mean, it's not that he didn't do a good job. It was more like he really just let us free and just said, you guys do your thing. And I'm all for that. But I was very intrigued and like wanting to learn more about production side. So to answer your question, I really was thinking like, I want a producer. And it's one of those things where you keep your eyes open long enough, you start hearing things and you start it's like things start coming to you. And I was on probably social media one day and was like, oh, I didn't know that Paul Roessler was producing. He's a a founding member of the Screamers in LA. And that he was producing kind of a wide breadth of music, a very eclectic kind of breadth of music. And I thought, that's pretty cool. That'd be cool to have like a punk rock producer. And he was connected with Kitten Robot, which is owned by Josie Cotton. So I was aware of Josie. I was aware of Johnny Are You Queer and convertible music as like, essential listening for like the new wave 80s, great, just fun dance music, loving that. But it wasn't like I went and said, Josie, will you sign me? So when it all kind of came together and she decided, oh, this was going to be a good fit. And I decided it was going to be a good fit. I don't know. We're like two mischievous little creatures. Like me and Josie, I feel like go together so well in like the way we look at art, the way we approach music. We're serious about it, but we have camp. We have fun with it. And she does not take things too seriously in terms of having so many different kinds of bands on her label. So it's really been a great home. It's worked out really well. But I feel like we got in through like the studio door with the producer. And then from there, it all kind of came together.
Ever since I was introduced to Hayley and the Crushers, your music, I've done some digging. I've looked at it. It looks like your live shows are getting just amazing reviews. Everyone says they're full of energy. How would you describe the experience of seeing you play live?
Oh, that's such a wonderful thing to say. Thank you. I go back to what my husband says, my bass player. He says, it's not fun until you fuck up. It's not a show unless you are, sweating your balls off, for lack of a better term. And that it's so important to express the energy and the vibe of the song so much more than playing it exactly perfectly or being concerned about, looking a certain way on stage. And I think that sense of abandon and joy and play, it's like the way I see performance is like running through the sprinklers on a summer day. Like you should, not that you should be, but I want to be, unencumbered. I want to feel like I'm breaking down that barrier between me and the audience and that we're sharing this moment together that's just electric. And so I think it just, that philosophy drives everything we do. And we tell every crusher, every honorary crusher, every drummer, every guitar player, we say, hey, we want you to be the star of this band. And as a result, it's like everybody's jockeying for eyes and jockeying for position. And I love that. I love that like our lead guitar player now is like spinning in circles. And like there's this new thing where he jumps over Reed's bass. And I think in some ways we're just like, it's like how much, when you're playing, you're like, well, how much fun can we have? Let's keep playing. Like, let's add on, So from that perspective, who knows what's going to happen next, but we just love to have fun. And we also love to have like weird sets. We've been known to do like, we kind of call it like a summer crush, like trash to treasure thing where we would find cardboard and old materials. We wouldn't want to spend a bunch of money on this stuff, just cheap stuff, spray paint it, make it all cool, have a backdrop, have like, maybe palm trees or have, we had a punk rock prom recently where we did a whole prom scene, for our audience. So I think those are the things that we're becoming known for. And I'm really grateful because I just see it as like a gift to the people that are coming and like not expecting them to, I want to create like a fun environment for everybody there instead of just expecting like them to come to me and like, I don't know. I don't know what other musicians are doing, but I like to meet people halfway,
So every band has unforgettable gigs, for better or for worse. What's the most memorable live performance that you've had and what made it stand out?
For better and worse, that's such a true way to say it. We're always humans our brains are programmed to look for the negative. And it's like so evolutionary. You really can't change that. It's funny how you can mess up something or something stupid happens on stage and you remember that forever and you might forget like the most fun. So I love that you asked the question that way. But with the Crushers, thankfully, most of our memories and most of our shows that I, think about on a regular basis are like fun and crazy and usually have something to do with like, I can think of one in particular that I was really joyful where we had a Summer Crush event that was very tiki themed and we had pineapples and we had this was in Morro Bay, California, legendary surf town. And we had a dance contest, and the winner of the dance contest got to have our pineapple scepter and be the pineapple queen. And we brought the props to the show, and we had like a really cool dancer on stage. And we've always wanted to have like real dancers, but we just had like this, for some reason, this woman who was dancing was, I think she's a professional dancer. She was just like dancing her ass off. And I think like those kind of shows are always the most fun. But like, if I was going to say the best shows, like the best, most exciting shows, we're doing them right now because we've been opening for Screeching Weasel, and their audience is really fun loving, and they have a really wide audience that includes like mom, dad, and kids. So it's like the all ages shows really go off. So I mean, it's hard to pick one, but in terms of like the stuff that's been hard, there's one that I remember that taught me a really good lesson. And it was early on when we were playing in San Francisco at the Knockout. And for some reason, we had practiced a couple weeks before the show or something, and we thought we were good. And like, we hadn't come back together to really solidify anything. And so we kind of went into it a little bit like, oh, we got this. And it was one of those things where every single person was playing a different thing at the same time. Like, and because we were so off, it made us more off. And like in normal situations, if one person's off, everyone can kind of carry it. But it was like all of us were playing the wrong song. And it was like the whole set, we were completely disjointed. And it taught me a lesson of like, you need to make sure that before you play shows that you have that muscle memory down so good that you can have fun and you're not just riding on, whatever, like hubris, like it's not good. But I'm sorry, I can't give you a specific on the best.
No, that's a great answer though.
Lately, it has been so cool because these are the biggest shows we've ever played. It gives us so much room to play on stage. We've never, our normal audience sizes are like 80 to 200 people, we're not a huge band. And so playing a room of 800 or playing a room of 500, that to us, that's very, very big to us. So these shows we've been doing lately, and we have some coming up in October as well with them, have been like just the fun of the Crushers, but amplified by 10. So I've been loving it lately.
So if we can dive into the new EP, Unsubscribed from the Underground, the song Blood and Treasure was actually the first track. That's how I was introduced to the band. Can you tell me about this song and how it came together?
I wrote that song in California, and weirdly enough, I think it was about it wasn't about this, but I was hearing a lot about Blood and Treasure with the Ukraine occupation, Russia's horrible occupation of Ukraine. I'd actually never heard the term before, and I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a common term in war, which made me think that's kind of poetic, and maybe that could also be applied to relationships and love. And the idea of, if you're seeking blood and treasure in a relationship, you're never going to win. Like there's no spoils, there's no victory, there's no gold cup at the end of it. And you're just destroying your own beautiful relationship and world when you look at it that way. And so that like kind of POV is what inspired the song. But in terms of like the musicianship of it, I think we've always had a soft spot for, beautiful girl group kind of 60s ballads and beautiful oldies, like it's such an oldies track. And I think the glockenspiel and the beautiful, like kind of just, I don't know, that guitar solo that Ryan did was just so romantic. And, we like to lean into the romance. So it just felt like it was time to do another like slow song for the Crushers out there that need a little inspiration to, I don't know, squeeze their partner or whatever.
Great song. I especially like the little reference to Dixie's Midnight Runners with Come On Eileen.
Thank you. That was hotly debated.
Really?
Yeah, just I like to put pop culture references in songs. And I think, and in fact, if I was going to talk about, bands that influenced me, Screeching Weasel does that a lot too. They're, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're a pop punk band that was bigger in the 90s and early 2000s. That has a lot of great new music today, actually. But they actually weave in a lot of like pop culture references in their songs, and I always liked that because it just makes your ears prick up and it makes you go. It's like a layer of reference that the audience already understands, and I think that's such a special thing to get an Easter egg like that in a song. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
The track Unsubscribe feels more like a statement. What does that song mean to you, and how does it tie into the EP as a whole?
I mean, I think moving from California to Detroit was a big decision. I always like to say it's still to be decided whether it was a good decision. Like it's a very big decision that we decided was going to be more about adventure than about like success. Like it was more like, let's do this. And if it all falls apart, it all falls apart. So that was our mentality coming into the music scene in Detroit. It was never to come to Detroit and be the kings of Detroit. It was never to prove ourselves to a rock and roll city. You know what I mean? And I think coming into the music scene in Detroit, there was part of me that was feeling that sense of like the tension between being this new, very different outsider coming into a space that's established and has been established since the days of like the Stooges and MC5. And although this song is not specifically about the Detroit music scene, it just made me think about every time, you feel like an outsider coming into like an established creative dynamic. It's just, you feel like such a weirdo. And I wanted to write a song from the point of view of the person who had been in that scene for a long time and didn't like new people coming in. And I wanted to embody that and to feel it. And it was actually kind of cool, and it kind of like changed my perspective a bit writing that song, because it made me realize like as much as the new people want to come in and contribute, that's threatening to the people that have been there forever. And it's kind of like since the dawn of time, this has been like a give and take of creative scenes. And I think it's kind of eternal in a way. So to talk about it like as a college thesis, that's what I would say. But we wanted to write a punk song.
Alleyways, another song on the EP, has such a raw, driving energy. Can you talk about the inspiration behind that song?
Oh, thanks. I was inspired by, looking back at my youth, and especially in Southern California, living in Redondo Beach and Torrance and Long Beach. So I was very much South Bay, like south of actual LA proper. And my friends and I every weekend would drive from the South Bay to Hollywood, to downtown LA, or even to like Lenox and Southgate, and these places where like economically not great, but these backyard shows that the people would put on would just go off, and there would just be someone's grandma taking money and making tamales, and there would be someone's brother running security. And I was thinking about the days that we would just be spending like hours in the alleyways, just drinking beer, waiting for the song to come on that we wanted, or the band that we wanted to see. A lot of times, you're like, I don't care about this first band. We were very guilty of that back in the day. And it kind of just harkens back to that time. That was like a really beautiful time. And it also coincided with a lot of like very cool early 77 and 80s punk bands like the Lurkers and Anti-Nowhere League and Motorhead and Vice Squad, all these bands like UK bands and just a multitude of bands from back in the day coming together to reunite. So we were seeing really cool bands on the regular as like 16-year-olds, and that was such a huge experience, so it's just like a kind of a tribute to that.
So also on the EP, you cover Queen of Hearts. You can really feel the band's energy flowing through this version. Why did you choose this song to include it on the EP?
I didn't choose this song. My husband chose this song. And I was just like, he was like, the Come On Eileen reference is corny. I was like, what the hell are you thinking? This is not going to work. I do like the song. I actually had never heard it before. It was very much my husband, who's a very, very deep country fan, to like early, country swing of like the 30s and 40s all the way up to the 90s. He loves country. And so this was a song that he was just like, I've had my eye on it. We've done all these 80s covers that you wanted to do. That's been fun. But like, I guess Queen of Hearts came out in the 80s too, right? But like, let's do a country song, and he wanted to sing it and he did sing it. And it was okay. It was like, nah, it wasn't that he did it badly. It was just, it didn't move the room when we were in the studio. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. I had never sang it in my life. And I sang it from kind of like trying to do Crusher's version of it, just not be pretty. You really can't compete with Juice Newton's iconic vocals. She is, I would love to have an ounce of her vocal talent. So we just kind of it's one of those things where you just throw it out there. And because it was casual, because the energy was kind of low key and let's see if this works, I think it does have like a fun, like authentic vibe that you're picking up on. And we just ended up using probably one of my first or second takes on that song. And I'm very, very proud that I went into it, not being a huge fan of the song really and not knowing it very well. And now it's like one of my favorites and I love it. And I can't wait to get it into the live set. We got to get it into the live set.
I can just imagine that'll go over really well live.
Right? Yeah, I agree. We're going to work on that next practice.
So speaking of covers, I know you mentioned earlier at the start of the interview some of the covers you guys have done as a band. I was thrilled to discover you guys did your own take on Los Angeles by the band X. As I describe Hayley and the Crushers kind of as an X meets the Go-Go's to kind of describe the band, how did you approach reinterpreting this classic song?
What a dream to be called X meets the Go-Go's. What an absolute dream. My favorite band is X. I have an X tattoo on my back I got when I was way too young to be getting tattooed at someone's house. And my guitar teacher, when I was, 13, is the one that turned me on to X, gave me all these great Burn CDs. And to this day, I mean, I play the Sparkle Gretsch because of Billy Zoom. So we love X. We love X in the Crushers' house. And the Go-Go's, obviously. I really wanted to do an X song for all those reasons, but I kind of forgot that there's that tongue-in-cheek, there's some words in that song originally that are very tongue-in-cheek and spoken in a way that really worked in the context of the time to be, not ironic is not the right word, but you get what I'm saying, to make a statement. It's kind of written from the point of view of somebody who's leaving Los Angeles, and I wouldn't say this person is particularly high-minded, And so when we went in to do the song, I can be a ditz at times, and I kind of forgot about these references in the song that were, definitely not going to work for 2020 when we recorded it. And so kind of on the spot, Reed and I were like, well, let's twist it up. So we threw in our own references, and I appreciate your kind words because Maximum Rock and Roll, or was it Maximum? It was some magazine, was really pissed that we changed the lyrics and said, you really took all the teeth out of the song and blah, 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 So I think we approached it in the only way we knew how to do it, but we knew we wanted to do an X song just to really honor the influence on the band. And also, we left California. So, I mean, obviously we recorded that way before we left, but I mean, everybody can relate to this idea of having to get the hell out and fly, and I think I had to leave LA when I was a early 20s person because I was out of control, and my husband had to leave Oakland and that punk scene because things were falling apart there. So we met in the middle in San Luis Obispo, California. It kind of, I don't know, when I play it, I definitely feel it, and I feel the sense of like urgency in the song.
So if we can, I wanted to ask you a few other questions about songs from your earlier releases as I'm digging through the history of the Crushers.
Okay.
Songs that stood out to me, I think they'll connect well with our listeners. Overexposed. What inspired this track and how did it come together musically?
AOL Instant Messenger chat rooms. I'm 38 and I'm definitely the AOL generation where our parents didn't know what the hell was going on the internet, but we sure had fun. So that's what that song's about. I mean, I feel like that just says it all. And I think the tone of it and how we recorded it, keeping that acoustic guitar very bright and, poppy in a way, I feel like it has that innocence to it, the innocence of a prepubescent girl who just really wants to be famous, but is too scared to let people really see who she is and is looking for adventure and God knows what on AOL Instant Messenger in the middle of the night. On the family computer.
So another one was She Drives.
She
Can you talk about the story or the imagery behind this one?
Oh, I'm glad you asked about this one. While many songs kind of aren't about specific instances, this one is. My dear friend, who went to all these shows and hung out in the alleyway with me, actually, back in the day, um, she is a fast and aggressive and defensive, I guess you would say, driver. Um, she lives in Huntington Beach now, but she she got in a fight with her husband at the time and was like, you know what? I'm just going to drive until I feel better. So she drove all the way to Malibu and passed. And I just thought it was so poetic. And it made me think of, the ways that we try to escape reality. And it's also kind of a badass image, girl just driving. It's very Thelma and Louise,
Yeah.
So that goes out to her. She's in a much better place now. So that's good.
Susie is a headbanger. Your take on this Ramones classic is fantastic. Why did you choose this song and how did you approach making it your own?
Well, Drunk Dial Records approached a couple different bands about doing something while we were doing songs from Leave Home by the Ramones and calling it Stay Home. I think that's what was ended up calling it. Yeah, okay. I was right about that. Stay Home. And doing that during the COVID pandemic. And so we recorded that in our kitchen. And it was, I think fondly of that because it's kind of like you need those lifelines when you're cooped up in your house. And we just thought, let's make a surfy version of it. And it is kind of it's a funky one. So that's a deep cut. And we love the Ramones. I grew up playing all those 3-chord songs and trying to learn all the wacky lyrics and stuff. So no brainer.
Kiss Me So I Can. This one feels playful, but with an edge. What was the spark for writing it?
In 2018, we spent 100 days on the road as a band, but also as a married couple. And it didn't destroy us, but it almost did, relationship wise. We'd never done anything like that. Because in 2018, we bought a new van that we could kind of live in. And we were like, let's just tour. Let's just tour while we can. And so we were doing a lot of touring, a lot of traveling as well that wasn't show based, but in the van. And we were just so after just so much of that, we became kind of disconnected. And that's a song we collaborated on together about coming back together and saying you need to, why are we, what is it? What is the lyric? It's this is what we came for. We came to this life and to this experience to be together. And yet it's kind of creating distance. And we needed to take some time to just be a little less frazzled and focus on each other. It's kind of funny how you think that being in a van together for that long would bring people together. And it does. It's romantic to an extent, but we were kind of naive and we didn't realize how it can also be hard to not have your own space. So then you kind of are resentful or people are not showering. It can get out of control. You got dogs and it became a little bit less of that freedom for us and more of oh my gosh, we need to pull back. you know? So that was a real song that we came together and wrote together. And I think when you listen to it, you can tell that there's emotional honesty there that comes from both of us. We wrote those lyrics together. Like we sat down and literally wrote those lyrics together. And it means a lot to me to sing that live. I always dedicate it to him. Yeah. And the music video we did kind of is that vibe as well. We created a whole thing around that song. So we can never take that off the set because people get really mad.
No Substitute.
When I tell you my words is around for you, like I told you, once we go up, never come down. The substitutes could be no one, 'cause there's no one like you under the sun. And I'll keep on waiting till you'll be my one. You'll be my one now. No substitute. You'll be my one now.
There's a lot of emotion in that one. What's the story behind that track?
Well, that is a cover from the Shivers, Milwaukee's power pop icons from the 70s. I had been getting more into power pop bands, and I just thought, oh my gosh, like this song is got such a cool melody. I just love the vocal melody. So it was actually challenging to record, but I'm really, really grateful of it. And it's pretty cool that Jill, the lead singer, has reached out and said that she really appreciated the song. And to be honest, I mean, they don't have a ton of recordings out there, but every single one of the recordings that are out there, I think would make a great Crusher song. Unfortunately, I can't get the band to do any more Shiver songs because as it is, it was too complicated for us. So we actually truncated it and like Frankensteined it a little bit to make it more doable for us and bring it down to earth. But it's still one of my favorites too. So I love that one.
So I'm probably going to mispronounce this title. Jacaranda.
Should've known better than to close my eyes. Close my eyes and you said goodbye. Do you still dream of the train station? Hoping for more than a little vacation. Do you ever drive the back roads at night? Wonder if you're wasting your whole life. Screw this small town. Grab the cage, let's scream out loud. No, there's much more. Before we go, let's tear it all down. The jacarandas are blooming. How about the jacarandas are blooming?
Oh my gosh. Well, you might not have them there. So they're a subtropical tree. They bloom this beautiful purple flower. You have to Google it if you haven't seen one. They're so beautiful. And they create a giant mess as well. So we have a jacaranda tree in front of our house. When they bloom in California, they kind of bloom in different cycles, weirdly, but like they don't all bloom at the exact same time. But when I wrote the song, it was around this time that they were all blooming at the same time. So there's these beautiful purple flowers everywhere coming off of these trees. And I just thought, and that was a time in my life that I was feeling really trapped. And I just thought like the imagery of the jacaranda tree is so beautiful. And like I just couldn't get it out of my head. So we had to write a song about that. But that's another song that means a lot to me too. I just feel like the emotional reality of it is really strong. And when we play that live, I find myself closing my eyes and like thinking about the trees and thinking about, you know, leaving my small town and this desire I had, you know, this was like 5 years ago. So this desire I had to get the heck out and I want to tour and I want to go here and I want to go there and I want to go everywhere. And I think we can all relate to that feeling, trying to bust out of the small town.
Well, it's a beautiful song. It's one that I really enjoy from your catalog and really encourage our listeners to check that one out as well.
Thank you.
And the last song I have to ask you about is California Sober. This track stands out. What's the meaning behind it? And how do you feel it reflects about where the band is right now?
It's kind of funny, like there were maybe 2 songs on the album. Well, actually 3, that kind of touch on sobriety. Either when I was writing it, I was thinking about sobriety, or it actually explicitly kind of talks about it. And now I don't drink at all. But I would identify as California sober, because a microdose of some psychedelic mushrooms or maybe some weed gummies to go to sleep is totally still in my vocabulary. I'm cool with that. But I think at the time I was thinking about people. There's so many people in California that are like, they're so wise and so awakened, and they're so elevated because of all of these drugs they're doing. And really, they're just doing a lot of drugs. So like, we all need to like learn a lesson from these burnouts, that like there is definitely a line between expanding your mind and just kind of being a burnout, right? So it's kind of a mean diss track, kind of mean, calling out the people that are so wise and so evolved, and yet they can't go one day without smoking weed, or they can't, not to be judgmental. I mean, we all need to self-medicate in certain ways, but I just think it's a little bit over the top on the West Coast, and I just felt like being mean, I guess.
So if someone is discovering Hayley and the Crushers for the first time, what song or songs would you recommend they start out with?
I like Jacaranda and Angeline.
She's running for Poland. Nobody knows her real age. Got a little bit crazy. She's gotta make her own thing. Slip under the knife. Strut into the 1,000-watt light. Pink satin sheets. Stiletto pressed to the metal. You don't know her name.
I think it's a great flip side kind of 7-inch single, thing where you got Jacaranda and it's that pop and that distorted guitar, and then you flip it over and you got Angeline, which is all about. I mean, I did win a ride in Angeline's pink Corvette. She's a iconic, if you don't know, she's an iconic 80s Billboard queen who was kind of like the first woman to be famous for doing nothing. Maybe Marie Antoinette was the first one, actually, but Angeline was the big boobed 80s one. And I just think it's like got that real 80s like pop kind of Cars, I don't know, 80s radio vibe. And I think that those two together like really showcase who we are. But if you want to know more about like how we sound live, and I think, or just more of what we're going for these days, Unsubscribe from the Underground is a great starting point, because it does combine like more of that Detroit grittiness and also the California magic, and kind of puts it all together. And then we have on the vinyl anyways, there's an exclusive, I think like 6 live tracks that we did in Detroit, because we realized, we'd been a band for so long and we had so many different members, that our live show is special. As you said, like, I think it's very special. And we wanted to like take some of those classic songs that we had written or recorded in years past and show how they sound live now, with the vibrancy and the vitality and like the fresh blood that is injected into the band, and the energy from moving cross country. And that's like where we are now. And we're creating new music now from that place. I think both of those records offerings are like great starting points. Please don't listen to the first album. It's essentially a demo. We want to like remaster and redo it and like redo the guitars and stuff. I think the songs are still solid, but like, don't go all the way back. Okay. Tell listeners, don't go all the way back. Please don't do it.
So what's next for the band? Is there more? You mentioned maybe some more tour dates.
Yeah, we're going to do some more shows with Screeching Weasel in October, including St. Andrew's Hall in Detroit, which is a really cool historic venue. Very stoked on that. We're going to do Grand Rapids, and we're also going to play Columbus with them. So those will be some really cool shows to check us out. And we're recording. Like I said, we're just recording from this place of, we've got a killer lineup. Our guys are just such awesome musicians. We are trying to like really go from that place of the energy of how we are live, and combine, our love of Phil Spector and our love of, raw, real punk rock energy and trying to put those together.
If our listeners want to discover more of Hayley and the Crushers, is it best to follow you on Bandcamp or the streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music? Where's the best way to keep up with you guys and support the band?
I think for supporting the band, our website, which will take you to our new Shopify merch site, is the way to go. Also, shop at kittenrobotrecords.com. They have the new vinyl there. We are moving away from Bandcamp a little bit just because it's kind of a cumbersome experience, especially for those that aren't like, I love Bandcamp. I'm a music nerd, so I love to like support these bands. But for all of y'all that are like, what's Bandcamp? Go to our website and also follow us on Instagram because I try to, inject more of our day-to-day lives and like kind of just create a community there. So that's a really good place too. And then for the love of God, please stream us on Spotify. I think our age bracket of our listenership's skews a little older. We love that because y'all are loyal and we know listeners are like, want to buy a record and, you want to listen to it all the way through. And I love that. Like 20-year-old listeners aren't necessarily doing that. So, but at the same time, they're not always on streaming. Do stream us if you're interested. But if you can't stream, that's fine too. I mean, streaming is a weird thing. I still feel like it's weird. I remember CDs and sort of cassette tapes. So just so you know, and I always put this out there because we collect like things with our name spelled wrong. You did not spell our name wrong. You spelled our name correctly, but it's so easy to spell Hayley wrong. There's like a 1Y version. There's a million ways of, I'm just putting it out there because it sucks when, if you did the podcast and spelled it wrong, it's hard to go back, as to like upload it.
Mm-hmm.
So just putting it out there. I have 2 Y's in my name, like Hayley Mills. Sorry in advance. I just try to put that out there now. We've gotten Harley and the Crushers. We got Harley and the Crusaders. We got Hallie and the Cruisers at a show recently, and we were so delighted by that. That was like the best wrong version of our name we've ever had. So we posted on our Instagram story about it, and somebody came to the next show the following night with a Hallie and the Cruisers sticker they had made. And now I'm the proud owner of a Hallie and the Cruisers sticker, which is going to be going on the cooler in the van. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, Hayley, it's been great talking to you, learning more about the band. I hope one day to catch the band live and wish you guys nothing but success.
Well, thank you for asking such thoughtful questions. And when we make our Salt Lake City debut, hopefully you'll be there.
If this is your first time listening, we thank you and ask that you please subscribe. That's a great way to support us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for New Wave Music Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.